Hello everyone, it's been a little while. Sorry, it's been a long weekend. Been a little while since I've given you a good update with King Gidrah. Couple of things. This wing broke over the weekend, right across here. So I've completely redone the seam line and molding on it. Put a bunch of Aves on there to level it out. That was fun. I've had a lot of breakage problems. This one's still got a bad spot or two on it, and I don't know if I can redo it or not in the time frame I have. We're gonna see. I'm gonna give it a shot. I might be able to do it tomorrow, but I'm running out of time. This thing's got to be painted in the next few days or it won't get done. Plus side is I've done a lot of work on her this weekend. You can see it. Heads are on, necks are on, feet are on, tails are on. You can see I've done the seam work around the tails and the body and the legs, mostly along the legs. There's still one or two spots lacking this, but you can see it along there that I'm replicating that detail fairly well. And you can see it on the necks, where the necks are joining the body, I've got it. Where the necks are joining the heads, I've gotten it down. And I think it's time for me to stop and explain a few things, because I haven't been doing updates the way I should. I've been concentrating on building this and not taking the time to make the videos. First off, these horns suck to put on this model. There is no registry pin, there's no nothing, just a flat spot to glue it on, and the plastic on this kit does not respond well to any of the plastic glues I have, because this thing just keeps breaking. So what I did is super glued them. They're holding with the super glue, but if you bump them hard, they come right off. So I got to be really careful with them. Another thing, horns in the center aren't on there really well either, even though they had a registry pin. So got to be careful with that. Now, let me explain very well what I'm doing to get this detail on here. Okay? First off, taking my Oya Maru, and this is a mold from his back, and this is the mold I've been using. You can see the detail this stuff picked up. This is a mold I've been using to do the detail around his legs. I just cut this end off, and I'm using the end I cut off to do the detail around the legs. And I've been cutting little pieces off here and there to get different shapes, to get it to fit different areas. Okay? Then I take my Aves epoxy sculpt. Almost killed those two jars between this thing and the polar bear. Take my Aves epoxy sculpt, mix up some, put it on my work surface right here, walk away for 40 minutes. That was part of the key. You walk away from 40 minutes. 40 minutes later, the stuff's stiff enough that I can start shaping it. I roll it into a snake like you've seen me do on some of the other videos, press it down on the surface. Then I will take my mold part, and I was using this part right here on the necks to get the detail on the necks. Then I'll take my mold part, and let's say I put my Aves right there. I will align it so the scale patterns are going the proper way. Then I press it in really hard. Okay? And then I pull it off, and if I'm lucky, it left an imprint. If I'm not lucky, the Aves is sticking to the mold part. So here's a few tricks I've used to get this to work properly. I always have a bowl of water sitting beside me. Okay? Right before I mold, I dunk this Oya Maru in the water, pull it out, just pat it dry. You want it slightly damp still, but you don't want all that water on it, because the water will soften the Aves too much. Then you press it in. Now when you're working with the Aves, you have to keep your fingers somewhat damp, or the Ave sticks to your fingers. It wants to stick to your fingers better than it wants to stick to the model. So if your fingers are slightly damp, it'll stick to the model better than your fingers. It's going to stick to the dryer of the two. The water just acts like a buffer. Okay? And then you walk away and you let this sit for at least 3 hours before you touch it again, or you're going to mess up what you did. And that's how I'm doing this with the Oya Maru and the Aves. And literally, this is about as much as I can get done at any given moment. This is not much length, if at all. I mean, take a look. You can see that's about the size of a bad fingernail. You know, someone hasn't cut their finger in a long time. Okay, maybe a giant fingernail. But you get the idea. It's about 1 inch long, or 2.5 centimeters long for you metric types. So that's about all I can get done in any given time on this thing. So I mix the Aves, let it sit, come back later, mix the Aves, let it sit, come back later, wash, rinse, repeat, and that's what I've been doing on this thing for hours, all weekend. Every 3 to 4 hours I'm in here working on this thing to get it to this point. But there you go. There's an update and an explanation on how I'm getting the seams filled. I just got one more Aves session on the seam filling, and this beast is ready to get her wings. Before I give her wings, though, I'm going to get my Tamiya silver paint and just smear it all over the place and take a good look at what I did. I did that with Godzilla and found 1 or 2 places. I don't want to hit this thing with primer until I've done that, so I have a good idea if I have to fix something first. Because I don't want to hit it with primer and then come back and go, dang it, I gotta fix this. I want to fix it before I hit her with primer. That happened to me on Godzilla. So there you go. There's a good update. As soon as I've hit her with the silver paint and I'm satisfied, those wings get glued on. Again, I have a teeny bit to fix on these wings, but it isn't much. When it's fixed, they're on. See you in a bit. Time to talk about King Gidrah here. Did my silver paint job, my normal, and I can see a couple of spots that I'm not too happy with. But the contest deadline is looming, and if I spend time fixing this, I can't get some other stuff done. So I'm having to weigh this really hard on whether I fix this or not. Now, from a distance, those of you with really sharp eyes, because I know I got a really good camera, and that camera's going to pick up everything that's bad. Some of you with really sharp eyes are going to pick up the 1 or 2 spots that are really bad. Okay? But, you know, at arm's length, you can hardly see any of it. And this is bright silver paint, and it's going to pick up a lot of bad spots. So I think most of you would be able to see it. I'm going to fix 1 or 2 of them. But again, I just don't have time to tackle this thing and do it justice the way it should. If I had another week on the contest, yeah, I'd tear it into these bad seams where I see them and fix it. But I haven't got that week. So, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to fix 1 or 2 of them. I'm going to go ahead and glue the wings on. I just got to get the wings glued on. Okay? Just something I got to do. And I'm going to go ahead and do that on the camera. We're getting out my glue, and I am hitting this pretty heavily. I'm using the Tamiya regular cement because it's a lot like tube glue. And I got some glue on this wing. I've test fitted them many times, so I know the wings fit in there just fine. She's glued in. Gonna hold her for a little bit. Okay? She's got to sit and dry on a fairly level surface, or his wings are going to warp a little bit, and I don't want that. I can feel that wing moving around. Part of the reason why I'm going to go ahead and do this is I got to do some seam filling around the wing. I might as well take care of the seam filling while I fix these 1 or 2 bad seams. So I'm not just doing a whole bunch of it. And you can see right where that wing joins that there's just a tiny bit of a bad seam. Okay? So now I'm hitting the glue on the other wing, and I'm putting it on very liberally. Because we know how much problems I've had with parts sticking on this model. Lots of problems with that. And I'm fairly convinced it's the gold overlay. Because when you get scraping on it, it changes colors, and that tells me that there's a pretty much a surface colorant on this thing. That wing fits in better than this one. So, let me hold them in there. And behold, King Gidrah with wings. Now, you can't tell me that doesn't look good. Because this thing just looks good to me with those wings on there. Well, I'm going to let that sit and cure up. come back in about an hour or two, get those seams filled. That means I'm going to end up doing the first primer coat tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. Trust me on that. I want to get this thing painted. Alright, talk to you later before I fall asleep. Alright folks, quick update on King Gidrah. You can see right here I put a primer coat on her. Okay. And you can see all the wondrous detail in this monster's body. I can see some of my flaws sticking out, but that's okay. Because, you know, it's contest time and I gotta get her done. But there she is in primer coat. Wanted to let her see her in primer coat. Up next, she's getting a black lacquer coat from Allclad. And then a clear coat, and then I decide I'm going with the gold instead of the brass. I like it better. I think it's going to look better on this beast. So, there you go. It's a little quick update.